looks like, and permanency planning hearing as well. May I have the names of our participants, please?
Lee Heiss, lawyer, guardian ad litem. Ms. Tasha Thomas, counsel for the department.
Francesca Madrid, foster care worker from Fostering Solutions.
Not here.
Michael McFarland, representing Mother. Please introduce yourself for us.
Sarah Leary.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We should note also for the record that this is a hearing on paternity matter set for today as well. Ms. Thomas, did you want to address that first?
Yes, Your Honor. I guess just wondering if Mr. Terrell Estelle is present on Zoom.
I think he is actually. Mr. Estelle, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Would you give us your full name for the record, please?
My name is Terrell Estelle.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I'll ask Ms. Madrid to be sworn in to provide an update on efforts made to establish paternity.
Very good. Come on up for witness
Ms.
stand.
Madrid, for the putative father component of this case, what efforts have you made to assist in establishing paternity for the child?
Yes, so I scheduled Mr. Estelle a DNA test for April 15th. During that time, he said that he was incarcerated and he could not make it. I scheduled him another DNA test for May 20th, to which he did not attend, and I told him he needed to be present today.
At this point in time, is there another DNA test scheduled at all?
Not since the May 20th that was missed, no.
Okay. And have you been in, I mean, it sounds like you've been in contact with Mr. Estelle at least.
Yes.
Okay, so he is communicating with you. And since then, or during this review period, have there been any other reports from Ms. Leary, whether there's another potential father?
No.
Okay. Has the child done his component of DNA testing?
Yes, back in January.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Judge, as it relates to the paternity component, I have no further questions for Ms. Madrid.
Counselors, any questions?
As long as he's up there. Your recommendation was for return of children to mother within this next reporting period, correct? That's what the report says.
Correct.
Is that still your position?
No.
What's changed?
There was an incident a few weeks ago, which I don't know the exact date, where a DV incident occurred in Miss Leary.
DV being domestic violence?
Yes, domestic violence incident occurred in Miss Leary's home where she was the victim.
Her being a victim, how is that impacting your decision as a victim of domestic violence?
Yes, so Miss Leary did not make me aware for several weeks. And then when I did ask her about the incident, she denied that it happened.
My understanding is still under investigation, correct?
Yes, and this all happened this week.
Criminal charges pending against the individual?
Not that I'm aware of, yes.
So you really don't know if it happened or not, right?
There is an open investigation that I have confirmed.
Right, but I'm saying she could be correct that it didn't happen. I mean, you just don't know because investigation's still ongoing, right?
Mr. McFarland, I think we're just having paternity right now. Can you table some of that tonight?
Oh, I can.
Thanks. Ms. Heiss, any questions on paternity?
No, thank you.
All right. Why don't you go ahead and return to your seat on that piece for now? Thank you. Ms. Thomas, anybody else on paternity?
I'll ask Mr. Estelle to be sworn in, please.
All right, to be asked, Mr. Terrell Estelle is joining us on Zoom.
Excuse me?
Sir, this is Deputy Ames. I'm going to swear you in so you can testify. Can you raise your right hand, please, and let me know when it's raised?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Estelle, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
You heard Ms. Madrid's testimony regarding the DNA testing dates.
Yes, I did. So
Okay.
about that, the day she sit me down there, I was incarcerated for like a couple of those. And I did go down there for one. I think that was back in, I want to say April or May, maybe. but they didn't have all the information when I went there. Yeah, I messaged her when I left, and I told her like they didn't have the information that was needed for me to do my DNA test. And she advised that I went back down there, but I had to go to work, so I couldn't just go back down there and have them, you know, swab my DNA because they had other people like behind me when I left. So.
Are you asking for more time to establish paternity? Is that something you're interested in?
Yeah, no, I want to do that. So, I mean, if we could stop another one, because I just had some things going on recently. I just got taken care of, so I got time.
And are you currently working?
Right now, yes, I am.
Okay. And are you comfortable working with Miss Madrid to get like an agreeable day and time to schedule that DNA?
Yeah, anytime during the early morning works.
Okay. I think you have no further questions.
Any questions for Mr. Estelle?
No.
Just briefly, Mr. Estelle, you're familiar with the mother of this child?
Yes, I am.
And do you believe you could be a potential father for this child?
Yes, I do.
Are you married to anyone?
No, I am not. I'm single.
Do you want to take the test? I know we reached out to you, but do you want to take this test?
I mean, yes, I do. I want to take the test. Yeah.
Thank you. Nothing further.
All right, thank you, Mr. Estelle. It sounds like we're gonna have to adjourn your hearing, or adjourn things as it relates to you until we come back for our next review. That'll give you another couple of months to get that DNA testing completed. Does that sound all right to you?
Yeah, no, that works for me.
All right, so I'm looking at, I don't want to keep you for the whole hearing if you don't want to stay, so I'm going to give you the new time for our hearing. I was going to suggest Wednesday, August 28th at 10 o'clock for the next hearing. Would you be able to rejoin us at that date and time?
August 28th at 10 o'clock. Yeah, I'll be able to join you guys.
Okay, 8/28 at 10.
Yeah, and just for the record, I just want to say Sarah is a good mother. So I don't know what went on with that domestic, but I'm just letting you guys know. Well, thank you.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand what you were saying. If you want to try again, a little slower, I'm happy to try to listen.
Oh, no, it's nothing really. Thank you, guys.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, Mr. Estelle has terminated his participation for today. Hopefully he'll be back in August and we'll have some more information on him.
The last thing I would say on that is that in the event that we have to do an unidentified, unknown father, if he doesn't continue to participate, I think the family is open to that.
Have publication completed.
Your Honor, given, I think my request of the court would be to find that we did properly serve and notify the known putative father, and if he fails to engage in the DNA testing, then our duty be alleviated that this child does not have a known or identifiable father.
Well, that makes sense. All right, we'll look at that piece again in August.
Okay, thank you.
All right, for purposes of today's review.
Your Honor, I did see the child in person and his needs are being taken care of. Since the court report, I have become aware that Miss Heron has been involved in a domestic violence incident where we had there was a male person in her life who was helping with the child while he was there. They met in rehab and all that kind of stuff. And it is my understanding that the domestic violence pattern in this case is what's upsetting. It seems to me that there was, I think that it's still under investigation, so I can't bring it to you today, but it'll be stale in the next review period, so I need to bring it up. A Facebook post that Sarah says that he put his hands on her. I believe there was bruising. I believe there was choking. I believe that she is going to deny it now. So I think all of those things are true. She didn't tell the caseworker. I found it online, and I'm able to see online her admitting it. So I believe she intends to deny it. She's denying it to the foster care worker who I disclosed it to. The caseworker told me that she checked with Washtenaw County and it is under investigation, so the police report is not available. That fella has a lot of criminal history, but it went for a period from 2022 to now that he was sober and he was really in treatment and doing a good job, but I believe that is no longer the case for him. I believe Ms. Herron has had some issues with sobriety, but I will look forward to investigating that. So even though it's relevant to today, I won't have all the evidence till next review period. So this is what I recommend. The family is very supportive of Ms. Herron, and so the placement, I mean, it's her uncle. Ms. Herron's father died, and so this uncle really has an allegiance to this young lady, and he wants to continue the visits and add to the visits. So they have a plan and a schedule worked out, and when we left court last time, they were supposed to get a strict schedule. And that didn't work again. They did put a strict schedule in, and the placement allowed her to switch days and come this time and that time. And they think they're being generous and helpful, and I think maybe they are, but it has led to the point where we still need to continue to expand visits. But they need to be on schedule. I don't see a daycare plan. I don't see, in the daycare plan that I've seen is Ms. Herron is planning to use from Ann Arbor, her mother in somewhere near Devil's Lake. And I don't know if that person's got a license even, or if she's feeling well enough to be a daycare provider. It doesn't sound realistic to me, but there is a very good way for her to get support in Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, wherever she lives there. And it's very doable. And in this last review period, the little guy needed his eyes checked, and she didn't get that done. And that kind of bothers people because in the placement, he's used to having his services. And there was another service that maybe it was the daycare that she missed. So the placement is still very supportive, and they really appreciate the sobriety. And that's a big accomplishment. And we had this new incident that we just have to deal with. They don't want to deal with it, but I don't know how to not deal with it. So I would ask you to consider that the team should come together again and discuss parenting time, because she needs the overnight, she needs the structure, she needs to figure out what she's gonna do for daycare. This fella that ended up in the domestic violence, I assume they're not in a relationship, but that's an absolute assumption. We kind of relied on him to support her, and he seemed to be a person that we could rely on in that way, and now I don't know that he's there. So what this exact schedule looks like, I'm not sure, but I'd like to build that together, and with your permission, expand it to continue, but to add domestic violence therapy, intensive treatment on top of what she's already done. I'm really disappointed to see, when we started this case, that Mr. Leary, who is still her husband, but is not the father of the child, had really severely hurt this mom, severely. And to see her in another relationship where this is happening again makes me think that she needs help identifying the triggers and identifying the cycles, and identifying resources to help her so that she's not maybe dependent on someone who's in that cycle with her. So that concludes my report, Your Honor.
Ms. Thomas?
Your Honor, I would ask that Ms. Leary be sworn in.
Thank you. Deputy Ames? All right,
Are you satisfied with the swearing? Thank you.
thank you. All right, I've terminated your video feed, Ms. Herron, for the moment to see if we can get a little better audio feed. So don't be concerned.
Ms. Herron, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have an opportunity to review the court report that was provided for today's hearing?
Yes.
Do you have any, do you believe anything is inaccurate in it?
Yes.
Okay, what areas do you think are incorrect?
About 70, well, first I just want to say I did not come here to court today to deny anything. So that was very offensive to me. But yes, there was a domestic violence situation in my home.
Ms.
And-
Heron, Ms. Heron, 1 second, okay? Let's just go through the court report first. What is wrong with the court report?
What do you mean?
So I asked if something was wrong or inaccurate with the court report, and you had said yes.
Okay, well, fine. No, it's not. So,
Okay, so the court report itself is fine?
yep.
Okay, so I'll try to ask some questions to guide what I think you are trying to get at. As it relates to this domestic violence incident, what would you like to share about it?
I don't want to share exactly what happened because I feel like that's my personal business and this is live streamed. But at the end of the day, there was a domestic violence situation. I handled it how I was supposed to. So it's not a pattern in my relationships because I have never called the police on anyone. I have not been around him since. I do not rely on him to pay my bills. I pay my own bills. And the daycare thing, he is on several waiting lists. I have done everything that Francesca has asked me to do, and I still don't have my son. I do go to intensive therapy. That's how much you guys don't know about my case. You guys have not drug tested me since I've been out of transitional. I still go to meetings. I've had stable housing for a year and a half. I don't understand if this, I'm starting to think that because I know Francesca outside of this and she has a relationship with my other child's father, like I'm starting to think that maybe she has something against me, but this is getting ridiculous. I have done everything that she's asked me to do. I am on several waiting lists for daycares. I had one picked out and she gave me a phone call 2 weeks ago on short notice and told me that they were not approved for licensing under 2 years old. I tried to make him an eye appointment and they told me that they would not take him under 2 and that I had to contact his pediatrician to get a referral to him to go see an eye doctor. And then he had an appointment made at the Kellogg Arena. It's not that I failed to take him.
Okay.
I drove to Adrian to take him to the ER. His balance issues have nothing to do with his eyes. He needs tubes in his ears, and I have took him to the doctor for his ears multiple times. I am going through a custody battle with my other child right now. So, did I lie to Mrs. Madrid and deny everything? Yes, I did, because at that point, I lost trust for her. I don't trust her at all. Not one bit. But did I come to court today? No, I did not plan on lying. I have changed as a person. My sobriety is very important to me. But I'm telling you right now, anybody else that has been dealing with Miss Madrid in this situation would have relapsed by now. But I am not going to. But he gives me unnecessary tasks that don't even relate to my case to do. Like I have proof. I have a list of a text from her of things that don't even relate to my case with Braylon. That is not her business that she tells me I have to do. Like why do I have to call on my kid's other case and find out what's going on with his custody? That has nothing to do with Braylon. She gives me work. I took your parenting classes. The parenting classes were on cyberbullying. It has nothing to do with what I need to go to parenting classes for. Like, are you guys really trying to help me? Or, like, what's the... understand? Do you know how hard it is to recover from meth addiction? And then for people to tell you it's still not good enough and you still can't be a mother to your children. That's all I have to say.
Ms. Herrick, so where are the areas that you need more support from the agency?
I don't need support from them at all. I don't trust them. I get my own support. I go to therapy. I have my mother and my stepfather for support. I go to meetings and I have a strong recovery group support system. I don't need anything from them at this point. I just need my son. That's all I want.
And have you provided Ms. Madrid with like proof of the wait lists, or
No, but I
proof of
have
like your,
I have it inside. The only reason I'm in my car right now is because my 11-year-old's inside right now and he's very nosy. But I have a list inside in a notebook of all the waiting lists and phone numbers. I can provide her with all of that. I can provide her with the conversation that I had with the lady who told me that, she didn't get approved for licensing. I've provided her with my employment information. I've paid off my child support. I am going to school in August. Like, I've paid my rent stably for a year and a half. I've had clean drug tests for a year and a half. Done therapy meetings. Like, what else? It's like, do I have to run for president next?
well, Miss
And
Herron,
the
your
person that are coming to my house, the one that just came to do my drug screen the other day, she said, why haven't you got him back yet? You are still my only case that I have that has unsupervised. And what does that say? I'm doing the work. I'm sorry if I'm being rude or anything. I'm trying not to be disrespectful, but I'm really upset.
and I can understand that. Ms. Herron, the court report's really favorable to you. It does say that you've done everything in your case service plan and have made progress. So I think that the intent based on the court report was to ask for maybe a transition plan for reunification, but then there's some concerns about, if you're being truthful with Ms. Madrid, who is charged with ensuring your child's safety, and when you're not, that's hard for her to do. And I understand that maybe you're frustrated with her, but there is a case service plan. And
how
some
am
of
I
those
going to
things,
trust somebody that is lying right to my face? When I asked her who told her the information, and she said Lee Hayes, that was a lie. You did not get that information off Facebook. My uncle already told me he sent it to you.
if Ms. Madrid said that Lee provided it to her, that is exactly what Ms. Heiss had.
Right, but Ms. Heiss said she investigated it on Facebook. No, you did not. My uncle sent it to you because my uncle was concerned. If you guys were not, this would have never even been brought up.
Yep, and Ms. Herron.
And I handled the situation appropriately. I can't control what other people do. I did not report that I had police contact because I did not violate the law. I didn't do anything wrong. I can't control what other people do.
You understand that if your child were in your care when that happened, that would negatively impact him?
He wasn't there. And I wouldn't have allowed someone in my home that was drinking with my child there.
Ms. Herron, my question was, do you realize if you were there, that would negatively impact him?
Your Honor, we're
I would
asking
have not let him in my house. He would have not came into my home.
Hang on, Ms. Herron, there's an objection.
No objection, it's calling for speculation, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm going to overrule the objection, and just tell you that I do think that a child witnessing domestic violence in the home would be harmful.
I have no further questions of Ms. Herron. Thank you.
Mr. McFarland, did you want to?
I do. So, sir, I know you have kind of a bad connection there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
You indicate that there might be a conflict with Ms. Madrid and some, I didn't understand that. Tell me what you perceive as a conflict.
She went to school with both me and my child's father.
She's still in contact?
She's friends with my child's father, who I am currently in a custody battle with.
And how do you know she's friends with him?
Because we all went to school together. We all went to Adrian High School.
Right, but I mean, I go to school with a lot of people I'm not in contact with. How do you know that she's in contact with him, is what I'm asking.
I don't know if they're in contact. I don't know that. But I just know in the past that when I've had a CPS worker visit and they knew me, like they weren't allowed to be on my case at all. And like
So
I knew this from the beginning, but I was like, you know what? As long as I do what I'm supposed to do, like it's not gonna matter, Sarah. Like it's not gonna matter. So don't even say anything. But now it's like I've done everything you've asked me to.
So are
You know
you
what I
telling
mean?
us that are you telling us that she knew you before this case was open?
Yes.
And how is it that she knew you before this was open?
I mean, we weren't friends or anything, but like we just went to the same school. Like she made it very aware to the caregivers that she knew me and knew who I was.
Okay. It sounds as though the guardian ad litem and the agency, at least according to the guardian ad litem, had hopes that this guy was okay. Did you have any red flags or anything, or did you feel the same way as the guardian ad litem and the agency?
No, I felt the same way.
Okay, okay. There were no red flags or anything?
No, but this is like kind of, you know, I mean.
So are we hearing then that you were actually truly a victim and you had no way of knowing that this was coming, that he didn't exhibit anything that would make you think that?
Correct. And then I also want to say that we did not meet in rehab, so I don't know where that came from either. We both had a substantial amount of sobriety time before we got together. Well, at least he did.
Just so the court, the guardian ad litem, and the worker knows, what would you look for to see if somebody might be potentially dangerous to you? And did any of these things ever exhibit themselves? If you could just elaborate.
I would look for first the relationship that they have with their family, the relationship that they have with their kids. I would see like, you know, how they are like okay with me having friends, like just to make sure, you know, they're not controlling. They don't get aggressive. I mean, I've had plenty of abusive relationships to recognize the signs, and now over, so now I can really recognize them and I can differentiate between love and what's not love. But a little different because I didn't see any of those signs. And but I guess, you know, we weren't really like our whole relationship, I haven't had my own place, you know, so we haven't had that alone time together. So now, and on top of that, you know, he was drinking at night, so he relapsed. So it's not like, you know, maybe he's not that type of person when he's sober. I don't know, but I know that was my no. And like, I'm not, it shouldn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, I know the triggers. Like I've been through a year and a half of therapy to know that.
Did you see any signs that he was relapsing?
Yes.
Would you be willing to get a PPO to demonstrate that you don't want him in your life if the child is reunified with you?
Yeah.
You know what a personal protection order is, do you, or not?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And it sounds as though you are actively pursuing charges against him. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So at this point, what I'm hearing from you, tell me if I'm correct, is that you wish for the court to follow what's in the case service plan and reunify you this period, because you've completed everything that you're supposed to complete according to the court report. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I appreciate your sobriety despite going through all of this. Is there anything else that you want the court to know about your situation?
Also
Look, you're breaking up there. Can't hear you.
bedroom apartment, and you know, I'm looking to have two.
Hang on, Sarah. Sarah, you broke up. We could only hear the first word, and then you picked up. So start from the beginning.
I've been working with a real estate agent to try to purchase a house, But Mrs. Madrid told me that if I tried to purchase a house, that it would be demonstrating instability and that it would prolong me getting my son back. And I just want to know if that's accurate.
Is your credit sufficient that you can purchase a house?
725.
And you're looking for something that would house you and
my two children.
That's just what I was gonna ask. Okay. Well, I will ask her, I will call her, okay?
And I make more than enough money to support myself. I did not depend on anybody to pay my bills, and I just wanted to make that clear too. And then I have nothing else to say.
Thank you. We'll see if anybody else has questions for you. Appreciate that.
Mr. Brooks, sorry, Ms. Heiss, any questions?
Ms. Leary, the incident, the domestic violence, do you know the date that it happened?
Not the exact date, but I have the incident packet inside. But I would prefer not to go inside right now and my son see me crying.
Okay, and in that incident, had Matt, had he already relapsed before the incident or after?
I can't confirm any of that because I didn't see it for my own eyes, and I don't know. I don't know what he's doing or what he did. I don't want to talk about him. I want to talk about my son.
Okay, so you were in rehabilitation. Your drug of choice was methamphetamine, is that right?
Yes.
Have you relapsed for methamphetamine?
No, and I just took a drug test like 3 days ago, so you guys should have that information as well.
And have you relapsed with alcohol?
Yes, but that's not a part of my case service plan, and it's not a relapse. You work your program your own way. When you guys tested me and came into my case, I was positive for methamphetamine, not alcohol. I'm 28, so if I want to go have a drink with my family and I want to responsibly do that, I can do that. So I did not relapse on alcohol. Did I have a drink of alcohol? Yes, but I did not relapse on alcohol. No. To answer your question.
Okay. Do you have pictures of the bruises and injuries from the domestic violence?
What is that relating to this? That's an investigation for the police. What does that have to do with my court hearing today?
It's really a yes or no. Do you have pictures?
No.
When you've had visits with Braylon this last review period, correct?
Yes.
And have you been going to your program when Braylon is with you?
Like meetings?
Yes.
He's been to a few meetings with me, yes.
Do you show proof of those meetings to your caseworker?
She's not asked for them, but I have meeting sheets up until I got out of transitional because I didn't need them for anything anymore, but I can get them.
Well, I don't know how we would know that you're going through those if you don't show us.
Well, I mean, I guess that's your job, right?
So you said that you drove to Adrian for ER for the child, is that right?
Yes, I drive to Adrian at least 3 to 4 times a week.
And was Braylon in your care and you brought him here to Adrian?
Yes.
You didn't seek any urgent care in anywhere near you for his needs, is that correct?
Yes. No, that's not correct. I've took him to the urgent care out here twice.
And then still needed the ER?
Yes, he needs tubes in his ears.
Okay. Do you have any paperwork about the urgent care?
Probably.
Okay.
Actually, Mrs. Madrid has the paperwork because I've sent it to her.
Okay. Did you ask for help from Ms. Madrid in the case regarding your oldest child?
I asked her for advice, yes.
Okay, so that's how she's involved in that case, is that right?
She's not involved. I asked her for advice. I asked CPS to investigate the situation and my claim was denied.
Okay, so you put in a complaint about, that oldest child.
Yes, but he's with me now, so it doesn't matter.
Is he under a custody order with you?
No, we're getting ready to go to court. His dad just gave him to me and said I could have him.
When is your court date?
I don't know. I filed the paperwork. I'm waiting for the letter in the mail.
Is that a Lenawee case?
Yes.
When did that child start living with you?
Maybe 3 days ago. Or 2 days, maybe 2 days ago. But it's not like, I mean, he's still gonna be going to see his father. We just haven't come up with an agreement yet.
Okay, your divorce from Mr. Leary, is that finalized yet?
No, I have stated that to you guys multiple times that they will not do my divorce until I have Braylon in my care. And you can contact William Amedio if you have any questions about that one. Because that's what they told me.
William and Betty, who?
Yeah, Jennifer is the one doing my divorce.
I couldn't hear that. Could she repeat that, Your Honor?
Jennifer is the one doing my divorce. Jennifer
who?
I'm not sure what her last name is, but she's in the office with Mr. Amedio. If I'm saying his name right, I don't know if I am or not.
Thank you.
Okay. Are you ready for expanded visits on a schedule in the next review period?
Yes, and that's what I was confused about, because like we agreed on, because my work schedule changes every week. So every Friday I submit my schedule and then we plan it out for the week. But Francesca had me driving to Adrian literally like 3 days in a row. So I would go to work from 8 to like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, drive straight to Adrian at 5, stay with Braylon till 8 or 9, and then drive all the way back and then do it again the next day, 3 days in a row. Right. And then if I would miss one of those visits, it was a big deal. Right. But here's the thing. It's not that I was missing the visits, because I had him on days that I wasn't supposed to be scheduled to have him on. So I was still seeing him like 3 to 4 times a week. It just wasn't on the days that she wanted me to see him on. And she's always like picking at me and like, well, you're still responsible for him to, if you're sick, you still have to take him, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I understand that. But I don't have to do that, because the caregivers for my child aren't just caregivers. They're also my family. I have a big family. So if I'm sick, I'm not going to have my kid around me if I don't have to. The thing is, she's just like, I understand she's just trying to do her job, but she's doing way too much. She pokes and picks and has me do all these unnecessary things. And I like, why did I take parenting classes on cyberbullying? What does that have to do with a recovering meth addict being a parent? Absolutely nothing.
Did you
so
deny
if we're do things to help me, like, let's do things that are actually going to help and not just throw things at me and give me stuff to do to keep me distracted.
Do you think you could do some domestic violence training or counseling? I
am already in therapy. I am in intensive therapy, trauma therapy. I have told you guys that multiple times.
Isn't that for substance use disorder?
No, it's not. For multiple things. I'm in dialectical behavioral therapy and everything.
Okay. Have you disclosed this incident of domestic violence to that provider?
That's between me and my therapist.
Okay, so.
But I'm telling you, I see my therapist every week.
Did you tell Fran that the police report was false?
Yes, I did, because I don't trust her. I didn't want the situation to get out because I didn't want it to get brought up in court because I knew this was going to happen right here.
So you were gonna hide it from the court?
No, I wasn't going to hide it, but I mean, if you guys asked me about it, I was going to tell you. But if it's being dealt with, I don't understand, like, why it's like I did what I'm supposed to do and I'm being punished for it, basically, right?
Okay, I have nothing further.
Thank you.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
No.
Rick Ross? All right, your next witness, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Judge. I would recall Ms. Madrid.
All right, Ms. Madrid, you remain under oath. Come on up to our witness.
Ms. Madrid, first as relates to your court report, are there any updates or modifications other than the ones that Ms. Herron has testified to that need to be made to the report?
No, none.
Okay. As relates to your recommendation, the court report had indicated reunification, which I think was sort of expected even during this review period. And at this time, I guess, given your concerns, what is your recommendation now?
We would recommend for continuing expanded and overnight visits to include weekends, just as she's already doing. But we would ask for her to start some DB intensive therapy or courses regarding the incident. I understand that she's a victim, but Braylon could be exposed to DB, so that is a primary concern.
Do you feel like you have any bias towards Ms. Herron?
No,
Do you speak to the other child's father at all?
no,
Do you feel like you're nitpicking on everything she does?
no. I feel like we've had a pretty positive working relationship up until this incident occurred, and she was not forthcoming with me.
Why is it important for parents to be forthcoming about incidents, even if they're not at fault?
I tried to explain this to Ms. Leary that my primary job is Braylon and his safety and his well-being. So because she's unsupervised and has the ability to pick him up and drop him off really whenever she wants with the caregivers, there was a possibility that he could have been there and exposed to that, as well as any kind of relapse with substances or alcohol.
And do you think that her purchasing a home indicates instability?
No. I don't know where she got that, honestly.
Is there anything you said about that?
No, we have spoken about her purchasing a home, but I would never say that that would cause instability. If anything, purchasing a home would create more stability.
Is there anything else that you would like to testify to or let the court know?
Not at this time, no.
I have no further questions, Your Honor. Move to admit the court report.
No objections.
No objection.
It has received cross-examination, Mr. McFarland.
Is it accurate what the guardian item said, that you were aware of this individual who was, in your opinion, appeared to be a good individual who was living with my client? Or the relationship she had with him, it appeared to be okay, right?
It appeared to be okay, and he hadn't had any criminal or relapse in the last 2 years. He wasn't approved to care for Braylon,
Right.
and he was not living with Mrs. Leary.
And you had no flags of him having domestic violence or other issues, or else you wouldn't allow my client, you would have advised my client not to be around this person, right?
Correct.
You never advised her not to be around this person, right?
No.
There's a possibility that this is a random act and that my client is truly a victim and had no way of knowing this act was going to occur. Isn't that a possibility?
Yeah, and that may be the case, but ultimately it's Braylon's safety, and her not disclosing that could have put him in harm's way.
The child wasn't there, correct?
Correct.
So how is, and she said that this relationship is, she's not having a relationship with him, correct?
That's what she says. Yes.
So I'm trying to draw the link with her being a victim and how it would affect a child who's not there, and her not having any continued relationship with this person, and her contacting the police on this aggressor, how that would affect this minor child.
It could potentially demonstrate a pattern of her continuing to seek these relationships that have caused some kind of DV incident.
But you didn't see that. You didn't see that he was, that she was seeking a person with that background, and you didn't discover anything in his background that would indicate that, correct?
I mean, he does have criminal history, it's just nothing in the last 2 years.
Yeah, but I'm saying you would have advised her not to enter into this relationship, not to be around this individual if you had suspected that this would be a possibility, correct?
Yes, and I could have been supportive if she would have told me about it.
It would have been supportive of what?
Of the situation, the incident when it happened, could have provided her some kind of resources in her community for victims, could have presented it to the court, letting them know that she did make me aware that wasn't the case.
Well, you're not faulting her for calling the police, correct?
Correct.
And if she is seeing a therapist, and if this therapist is counseling her on what happened, you're not faulting her on that, correct?
I'm not aware that she's receiving counseling for what happened.
That's not what I asked. I said, if she is receiving counseling through this therapist, you're not faulting her for that, correct?
Correct.
And if she is receiving counseling from this therapist, are you asking her yet to do more domestic violence if she is receiving therapy already for this incident?
If she is receiving those specific services, then she wouldn't need to find a new service provider. We would just need to make them aware of the incident and make sure she's addressing those patterns.
Well, patterns. If this is an incident that you weren't aware of and she wasn't aware of, how do we know it is a pattern? If it happened perhaps out of the blue, how do we know that? Until the police report is completed, how do we know that?
I don't know.
You kind of like to see what the investigation provides, perhaps?
Yes.
Okay. What was you were proposing in your report for transition to my client? What was that going to look like, if you could tell us?
My plan was to have a family team meeting after the hearing to plan for a date where he could be placed there full time, as well as start FRP.
Okay. FRP could still be started, couldn't it?
Yes.
A family meeting could still be utilized to maybe have you inquire my client if she would perhaps have the therapist provide a letter that she's receiving counseling for this, correct?
Correct.
Family team meeting could also be used to work out what safeguards you might want for assurances that there aren't going to be any male individuals in the home while children are there, correct?
Correct.
Willing to do a family team meeting to discuss that with the goal of still, the goal of returning the children to her as soon as possible?
Yes.
You've not received any type of complaints from any personnel who are mandated reporters on my client. She knows she has a child with her, correct?
Correct.
Nothing further.
Ms. Sykes?
Just briefly, okay, have you noticed more combativeness from Miss Heron, that is uncharacteristic in the last week or two?
Absolutely.
Do you know if the child is on daycare waiting lists in her area?
I don't have anything verifying that. That's what she's told me.
Oh, do you have the screen results back from this drug screen she referred to?
I don't have them back yet, no.
Has she disclosed her relapse to you?
No.
Your Honor, I object. There's been no discussion of relapse.
She's talking about the alcohol, Mr. McCarroll.
I don't
Am
think,
I wrong about that, Ms. Heisen?
No, that's exactly what I'm
our
referring to.
case service plan doesn't say no alcohol.
You're welcome to recross her, Mr. McFarland, but that's what she's referring to.
Well, I think that's a mischaracterization. That's my objection, Your Honor, because a relapse is, her addiction is not alcohol. So it's not a relapse, Your Honor. That's a mischaracterization. That's my objection.
I disagree. I just have to do an education about addiction. It doesn't matter which substance you're addicted to or using. But going forward, we'll ask for her to disclose that to her SUD treatment provider and see if they think it's relevant.
I think that's a fair solution. We'll take both arguments under advisement. I think they're both good points, frankly.
So, Ms. Madrid, she lives in Ypsilanti, is that correct?
Yes.
When she visits here in Adrian, she visits at the placement's home.
Sometimes she visits at the placement home, sometimes she goes back to her home, sometimes they visit the community.
But the placement is supportive.
Yes.
It allows her to visit there.
Yes, I don't believe that she's been visiting there as of late, but yeah.
It's all inaccurate.
I didn't hear that, but if you could please refrain from interrupting. We can give you another opportunity to testify if you want to in a bit.
Okay. Would you agree that Braylon is of the age where he is still not verbal?
Yes.
What other services do we have to ensure his safety in her home during visits?
Right now she doesn't have any services in the home. The plan was FRP.
Have you been in contact with this Mr. Bailey?
I have not.
So you approved him on his criminal history and his sobriety and the things, anything else that you researched on him?
No, that was it.
Thank you, nothing further.
Redirect,
No,
No.
recross.
that's right. No recross.
Thank you for your testimony. May I return to your seat? Anyone else you'd like to see? Redirect, Mr. McFarland?
Redirect. I know my client wished to comment, Your Honor.
Yes. All right, Ms. Herron, you remain under oath. Go ahead, Mr. McFarland.
Ma'am, you've heard Ms. Madrid, correct?
Yes, I did.
And it sounds as though you wish to voice a difference of opinion. What is that difference of opinion?
My visits have only been at the caregiver's house once or twice. I do all my visits at my mother's house. I just wanted to make sure, like, that's how much she doesn't know what's going on. Like, and she says that, I'm not being forthcoming, and, the caregivers over there, they drink and smoke weed too. So I don't understand, like, and I didn't relapse. Like, I don't want people to keep saying that. And if you're uneducated on addiction, no disrespect, like, everyone's program is worked differently.
Let me ask you a question that might solve this, okay? Would you mind refraining from alcohol until you have a letter from whoever is counseling you for addiction that indicates that alcohol is not an addictive substance for you? Would that be something that a compromise that you might do?
Of course.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Anything else that, based upon Ms. Madrid's testimony, that you wish to clarify?
No.
Well, I know you have a child. This child is your child is living with you now, correct?
Yes, my 11-year-old.
Is a child in this case having a relationship with that child?
Yes.
Okay. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Questions?
No.
Nice, nice.
There are 2 children who are biologically related to you that live in the placement home, is that correct?
Yes.
They've been adopted there?
Yes.
Thank you, nothing further.
I also have
Any
a
other-
relationship with them too.
Any other witness
I get to see
testimony?
them as well.
Judge, there may be a Jen Barr in the waiting room. If she can please be allowed. I'm gonna try to be quick. Thank you for joining us. How are you involved in this matter?
I'm a visitation specialist with Fostering Solutions.
Okay, and what service, is that the service you're providing to Ms. Heron and her child?
Yeah.
Ms. Barr, I don't know if you can hear me, but you are breaking up significantly. I don't know if it's helpful to turn off your video
I
feed.
tried to terminate her video feed, but she's frozen at the moment.
If she logs back in, we can maybe call her, but we can wrap up.
Did you have anybody else you wanted us to hear from, Mr. McDonald?
I think you're on.
Ms. Heiss?
No witnesses today, thank you.
Hello? Sorry.
She's rejoined us.
Okay.
Ms. Bauer, can you hear me okay?
I kind of turned off my video. I'm not sure if that helped. I'm sitting in my car at my other job, so just for privacy.
Yeah, no, I think that did help a little bit. You were answering, I think you were giving us a pretty thorough answer of the services that you were providing to Ms. Heron. If you can just briefly summarize when you were involved and in what role?
As a visitation specialist with Fostering Solutions, in the past, I supervised
Really just a really poor audio. So I'm just going to I won't ask you any more questions, and we'll hopefully get a report from you if need be in the future, okay?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Bowden. Thank you for trying. All right, comments, Ms. Thomas?
Your Honor, we were really hopeful to have this case close out even before we came back for another review at our last review date. I hear Ms. Heron's frustration, feeling that maybe too much is being expected of her. But our cases are open, and when we're in this position, we really need parents to take accountability and responsibility for their actions and the safety and well-being of their children without deflecting that it's someone else's job. The whole point is to really leave our foster care workers with nothing left to do. And when we have parents who are not forthcoming, it really puts us in a tricky position because we don't know if we can trust the child to be safe in their care without oversight or more supervision. I know that a lot of this may be minimized, but I think it's a good thing to sort of recall that this child was born positive for meth and alcohol. I understand that I'm not the expert on substance use treatment or addiction or anything like that, but that piece seems a little relevant. The red flag of maybe a partner who's in recovery, relapsing with a different substance, that piece seems relevant. This is a young child who is not verbal at this time, and safety has to be first. With that, I'm not sure, Judge, what your recommendation is going to be. I think that there's consensus that the goal is still reunification, that this is not an end-all be-all setback, but perhaps there does need to be something more put into place. And I'm not sure if that means just confirmation that DV is being addressed, or that alcohol use, if it's permissible, is being addressed, or maybe there does need to be a supervision element back in place. I don't know, but I leave that to Ms. Heiss's recommendations and ask for a 90-day review. Thank you.
Mr. McFarland.
Your Honor, I can see a person being a victim of domestic violence. It's kind of hard for us, some of us who've not been a victim of violence, and I have, to understand what's going on here. My client has agreed to refrain from alcohol until we have some type of report. I think that she will allow her therapist to communicate with the worker that she's addressing these issues, because I believe she is addressing these issues with the therapist. She seems to be addressing everything else. I can see her exasperation in that her goals and anticipation were proceeding to reunification. We don't know that this is a pattern, Your Honor. Guardian ad litem The worker, the agency thought this individual who assaulted her was an acceptable person, just as my client. He'd been vetted. No, I don't think you can do better than that. He's been vetted. He was okay to be there, and then he assaults her. It's out of the blue. She's a victim. Should she have lied to the worker? Well, bluntly, no, she should not. But when you're in, she did call the police. They are investigating. They're probably criminal action is going to be taken. She's willing to get a PPO if that is necessary. We would like to keep a family meeting, discuss some of these issues that we just addressed, to have a family reunification program, the FRP, in place, going. Encourage her to, sounds as though we're encouraging her that it's okay to get a house. I'm not saying this is a little hiccup, but I don't know that, obviously if she had told the worker, the outcome may have been different, but not telling the worker doesn't change the outcome. It just changes what's going on. The court report, you know, she said the case service plan says she's to report any criminal activity on her part. She's not charged as a criminal here, that a crime's been committed, Your Honor. It's likely it's relevant. So we are asking that we keep on the same direction in the goal for reunification as soon as possible in this case. Thank you.
The placement is a relative of mom's, and they have asked me to recommend continuing with the progression of visits. The child's 1 year old, and although they're available for permanence for the child, they're very impressed with the sobriety that they saw up till now, and they want to continue with visits. I can't tell you the child's safe in Ypsilanti. The level of dishonesty is not a good partner for us to rely on for a nonverbal child. The deflecting and shifting of blame is not typical. So I would ask you to consider that the family wants to continue with visits, and they've asked me to articulate that to you. And because if we slow it back down, we're not going to know if she really can. There's 3 children that weren't in her care. She says one is in her care now. So we don't know that she can and will enjoy full time. She'll be sick from time to time, and yeah, she'll probably have these relatives to put him with when she's sick, but if he's in school and those kinds of things, they want her to make it. And they want to put this child, the responsibility in her lap, but he's our responsibility, and I can't guarantee that he's safe there. I can't guarantee that mom has an understanding of what her duty is to the court to let you know what's happening with the child. It's under your jurisdiction. Thank you.
Well, the court finds all interested parties are given notice for purposes of today's review hearing, which is also a permanency planning hearing. This is our 5th review in this case for mom. We're still trying to find the child's father. We're on our 3rd DNA test. So there are some outstanding factors, I think, that will allow me to continue looking at permanency in the future, but I can tell you, Ms. Aaron, that today's hearing did not bolster your credibility, especially around the testimony as it relates to how you dealt with, and it sounds like intend to deal with, the caseworker moving forward. I have real concerns about use of alcohol, especially in light of the fact that your child was born positive for that substance as well. I also heard some of the shifting of blame on things, and the need to address both the use of alcohol and the domestic violence that occurred in your home is paramount. It shouldn't be something that you are going to make the caseworker contact your therapist for, to find out if you told her about this and if you're dealing with it in therapy. This should be something that you are tackling yourself immediately and letting us all know that you're tackling. this is a second incident. So is it a pattern? I don't know. Is it a one-off? No. As far as the domestic violence in the home. I'm not holding anything against you if you were the victim of a domestic violence incident, but I am holding you responsible for keeping your child safe. And if that's going to be something that I have to worry about, which is domestic violence in the home, then I expect you to worry about it and to take it up with your counselor and to try to learn about the best possible way that you can avoid exposing your children to domestic violence, just like you have with the use of drugs. You've done a great job with that. Continue to test negative. I hope that that continues to happen. I know this has been a very stressful time for you, and I wish you the best of luck on that point. I appreciate you talking to us about how important your sobriety is to you and how important your child is to you. So I just want to encourage you to stay focused on those things and to focus on moving forward around the things that maybe have become stumbling blocks for you recently. I need you to do that because, as Ms. Heiss put it as well, we have to know that we can count on you to keep children safe in your care. I'm going to grant you another review period and set their next review hearing for August 28th at 10 o'clock. In the meantime, the child will remain in placement in this relative placement, and it's the safest and least restrictive under the circumstances. Here, lots of progress in significant areas, but those areas that I just spoke with you about at length, I need to see progress in those areas before I can return your child to your care. You know they'll be safe there. So, we do have reasonable efforts being made towards the goal of reunification. Thank you to our caseworker and to Ms. Heiss for satisfying her obligations as guardian ad litem as well. I'll trust Ms. Heron to move forward in a way that demonstrates without question that she's able to tackle the challenges that are ahead of her and demonstrate that in a tangible way to us. That's what needs to happen. Whether you like Ms. Madrid or you don't like her, you have to show the court and Ms. Heiss and your family too that you can keep kids safe in your care. That's the long and the short. All right. I'll look at permanency next time. I'm going to leave the visitation as supervised and unsupervised, but I ask the agency to organize some supervised visitation so you can have a look at how those dynamics are playing out. I'll leave it to you to organize that. Any questions? All right, we are on record in this case on our sixth review. May I have the names of our participants, please?
Lee Heiss, lawyer guardian ad litem.
Nastasia Thomas, counsel for the department. Ms. Beach.
Ashley Beach, I'm the foster care supervisor on the case.
It's my client on Zoom, Your Honor, Michael McFarland, representing mother.
Yes, Ms. Heron,
Oh,
thank you for your patience. Would you like to give us your name for the record?
Sarah Heron.
Thank you so much. All right, Ms. Heiss.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Heron allowed me to observe a visit between her and the child because I had, in the past, known him with the placement, which is Ms. Heron's uncle and that great uncle. She has a lot of skills with the little guy and he's happy with her and bonded. So this whole visitation plan that Francesca Madrid has had us on for an extended period of time, I think has produced a bond that is secure. She has lots of energy for this little guy. So the visit was at Miss Larry, Sarah's mother's house, which shows that she has support in the community and she has her own transportation. She's stable on her employment, on her recovery. We had a blip in the last review period of domestic violence, but that person is incarcerated and we've seen what Miss Leary can do in substance abuse recovery, and it's really rare and fine, wonderful what she's been able to do. And so I hope she'll continue to improve her domestic violence training so she knows her triggers and she knows her patterns so that hopefully she can break that. All right, so the child is, I really think that at this point, the visits in Adrian, she's shown the commitment to get herself here, and she says she's leaving work straight to come and get the child and visit him in Adrian. area for sets of hours several times a week. I think that the bond would grow if he stayed with her so that we didn't have that transportation and the isolation of the visits being standalone visits. She has plans for daycare, but of course, until the child is reunified, she can't apply for benefits. But even so, she's identified a daycare provider, which was a big barrier in the past. Let's see, his ear appointments, eye appointments, those things she's aware of and articulating that she's on top of. I am in agreement with the agency that reunification is safe for the child. Thank you.
Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I just inquire of Ms. Herron if there was anything that she would like to state about the court report?
Okay, Ms. Sarah Leary, do you want to testify today?
No.
Thank you, Your Honor. Then I'll call Ms. Beach.
Ms. Beach, come on up and stand.
Thank you. Ms. Beach, can you briefly state how you are involved in this matter?
Yes, I am the direct foster care supervisor on this case.
So you did not draft the court report that is included today?
I did not, but I reviewed and approved it.
And how, as a supervisor, how are you familiar with the case and the contents of the court report?
Ms. Madrid and I meet at least once per month, but talk way more frequently about the happenings in this case. And then I also review and approve case service plans and court reports.
Okay, thank you. Bless you. And included in this court report, there is the case service plan letters from Home and New Vision therapist, and then a DNA report of a Mr. Terrell Sala. Is that correct?
Correct.
To the best of your knowledge, were there any other documents that were circulated since this court report has been filed?
I don't believe so.
Okay. And are there any updates in the court report or its attachments to the best of your knowledge?
The only update that I have to provide is that Ms. Madrid said that Ms. Herron has found a daycare close to her. So that would be the only update that I have.
Okay. At this time, it sounds the court report is asking for maybe a transition plan into reunification. Can you tell me a little more about that?
That is correct. So throughout the case and during this reporting period as well, Ms. Herron has consistently participated in parenting time. She has been consistent with her outpatient services at Home of New Vision, and she has maintained her housing, which is an apartment, and her employment. So she has definitely maintained progress in those areas for a substantial period of time. There is still some concern about domestic violence and preventing future patterns in future relationships, but we think that those concerns can continue to be addressed in her individual therapy and potentially be made a goal with reunification services through FRP. So we do feel like it is appropriate at this time to transition toward a return to Ms. Leary's care for Braylon with reunification services in place.
And generally, does that indicate that Ms. Herron has been in compliance with her case service plan?
Yes.
And has she demonstrated benefit from that then?
We believe so. And even following the domestic violence incident that occurred in June with her previous partner, she took steps to protect herself by filing a PPO, which was granted, and he is currently incarcerated. So those are protective factors at this time. It's just going to be continuing to address red flags to look for in future relationships and patterns and such.
Thank you. What would be the risk of harm if the court were to return the child today?
We believe that in general, the risk of harm has been mitigated by her participation in services and compliance with her case service plan. Our only concern at this time would be the risk of exposure to domestic violence if she were to engage in a new relationship where that is present.
But currently she is not in a relationship that poses any risks to any future domestic violence at this time?
Not at this time, not to our knowledge.
And has there been any like overnights that the child has had with mom in her home?
Yes, so during the last reporting period before the domestic violence incident, Ms. Leary was having some overnights. This reporting period, we stopped the overnights. She was still having unsupervised visits just while we got more information about what had transpired and we wanted to make sure that the home was safe. But recently, I don't have the exact dates. I believe that Braylon has had some overnights. Daycare was closed for a week, last week or this week. And I believe that she started overnights again.
Would the agency be agreeable to an immediate return home with FRP in place?
Yes, I think that Braylon has spent a lot of unsupervised time with Ms. Heron. He is familiar with her home and he has had overnights during the previous reporting period and then more recently. So I think the transition would be a smooth one. We would just want to make sure that we can have family reunification services in place whenever the return does occur.
And generally, how quickly does FRP start, or how, if it's court ordered, when is the time frame that FRP is to begin?
I believe they have to start within 30 days of a child returning home. And we will be in communication with them immediately when he is returned and see when their next opening is.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to provide? Any other information that you'd like to provide to the court today?
I think the only other update that is also included in the court report is that Mr. Terrell Estelle was DNA tested and he is not Braylon's biological father, so we still have an unknown biological father at this time.
And to the best of your knowledge, was that the only other named individual that Ms. Heron was able to identify as a potential father?
I'm not sure. I did not ask Ms. Madrid if there was any other individuals before she left on vacation.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that update. With that, Your Honor, I have no further questions of Ms. Beach and would move to admit the court report and the attachments.
No objection.
No objection.
Thank you, Dave. Received cross-examination, Mr. McFarland?
One question. How long does the FRP program typically last?
On average, I would say it is 3 to 4 months long, and it depends on the parents' participation and progress.
So a 90-day review?
Yes.
That was 2 questions, sorry. Okay.
Ms. Heiss?
Just to be clear, in the last review period, one plan of Miss Leary's for daycare was her mom in Manitowoc Beach. Has that person been approved to have Braylon in her care without the mom there, without the uncle there?
I'm not sure. We can definitely run clearances if they haven't been run already. But I would imagine, knowing Ms. Madrid, that she probably has already run those clearances.
Okay. So I want to make sure communication is good. Like if that's going to be her backup so that mom has to run this child to Manitowoc Beach to get back for a shift. It's definitely not her primary plan. But if that's a backup plan, I want to make sure that that's an approved plan. The divorce from Mr. Leary, what is the status of that?
I don't think we have a status update. Ms. Madrid, I believe, has been receiving her updates from Ms. Leary.
Yes.
I don't know that she's gotten into touch with any attorneys or the court handling that case.
Okay.
So Ms. Leary might have a better update as to where things are at currently.
Now, Ms. Leary has older children, correct?
Correct.
She does not have any of those 3 children, all boys, in her care full-time. Is that correct?
Correct.
2 have been adopted by this uncle who's placing it for this child, right?
Correct.
And then there's an older one and she's having contact with them and increasing her relationship with that child, correct?
Yes, and she's even been bringing him to, or involving him in her therapy sessions, according to her therapist, which I think is a great thing.
Okay, and then one risk, would you agree that one risk that remains is that we don't know this mom's full-time parenting stress level, abilities? So that would be monitored in the next review period. Do you agree?
Yes, and that would be something that FRP would be able to monitor as well.
Okay, and then regarding the DNA, because we haven't had a match at this point in the case, is it the agency's position that we should continue to seek a parent for a paternal figure for this child, or that the due diligence has been done?
I think we have definitely done our due diligence. I think that it would be nice for this child to know who his father is, but since we haven't found a match thus far, I'm just not sure what the potential of finding a match is.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you for your testimony. You may return to your seat. Other witnesses today, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. McFarland?
Ms. Herron, briefly,
Deputy Ames, if you could swear in Ms. Sarah Herron,
who
please.
would like to address you today?
Ms. Karen, please.
Yeah, Ms. Herron, you support return of the child immediately to you today?
Yes,
Okay. And you believe you have everything set up for retrieval today, correct?
yes, I do.
What's your schedule look like in order to pick up your child?
So right now he is enrolled into a daycare. But after I had paid for like the registration fee and everything, I found out that they didn't accept DHS assistance. So I'm going to be using that daycare until I can get him into a different daycare. But realistically, that's not going to be affordable for me. So it's going to be very fast for me to get him into something else.
Yes, my question was really, if the child's returned to you today, can you pick up the child immediately, or what would that look like?
I already have him, so I am assuming that, maybe I could just keep him. I don't know.
But that's all I wondered. He's not someplace right now. Okay. Next, is there any other possible father, since we don't have a DNA match, that you know of?
No.
Okay. Anything else you want to add or not?
No.
Thank you.
Ms. Heiss?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Herron, I had a note that there was another child that was gonna be moving in with you in the last report period. Do you have any other children in the home with you?
No. So we are still going to court for him. So I'm not sure exactly when that would happen. He does stay over here with me quite frequently. But no, he's not placed with me yet.
Okay, thank you. Any questions based on my questions?
No, thank you.
Just briefly, is that custody case in Lenawee County for that older boy?
Yes.
And is the divorce with Mr. Leary, remind me, is that Lenawee or Washtenaw?
That is Washtenaw, and also the update on that, they the divorce attorney doesn't want to do anything until Braylon is placed back into my care.
Okay.
Because
thank
there's
you.
something with the paperwork. I'm not sure exactly how to explain it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, there was one other thing I was gonna ask you about, which is your therapy. I noticed in the reports that you're in the process of changing over. Do you have a new therapist lined up?
No, I have the same therapist, so I'm not sure where that came from.
Good, all right. Did you have a change in your insurance?
Yes.
Okay, but that's you're staying with the same therapist and you're still engaged?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you for confirming that for me.
Yep.
Any more questions based on my questions?
No.
No, thank you.
No, Your Honor.
Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else you'd like us to hear from, Mr. McFarland?
No, thank you.
Ms. Heiss?
No witnesses. Thank you.
Comments in closing, beginning with Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Your Honor. It sounds like at this time, the agency would ask the court to order the reunification and also order that family reunification program begin within the required time frame, which I believe is the 30 days. And with that, just have another review period to monitor the full-time parenting for Ms. Herron and go from there. Thank you.
Mr. McFarland,
That's acceptable with my client.
Ms. Heiss?
Your Honor, the only last thing I want to address is if we stop checking for fathers, and Ms. Leary says that she is unaware of another father, then we have Mr. Leary is not the father as per your previous order, but I wonder if the divorce is affected by unknown father, because if it isn't, I think that we should, I ask you to consider making this father unknown. And I've asked the placement, who is very supportive of this mother, and they really wanted a good effort to look for a biological connection for the child, but this is a good effort, and I don't think that we should continue to look. The potentials so far have been people that I wouldn't really want to add relationships for the child. So anyway, father unknown is my request. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that is appropriate. I have issued an order to that effect, including an order following the putative father hearing, which I think was scheduled and adjourned a few times. So that will be wrapped up as a result of today's proceedings as well. Mr. Terrell was given notice of that. And obviously he did not appear, and that's fine. The DNA test indicates he's doesn't have any biological probability link to this child whatsoever. So I agree with Ms. Heiss, and those findings are contained in this order as well as a separate order on paternity, that this child has an unknown putative father, and that will not require any further efforts to find him. As it relates to the review and permanency planning hearing, that's also been something that was given, notice of that was given to all interested parties. The permanency planning goal of reunification is appropriate. That will remain in place. It will grant the request to return this child to the primary care of mother, given the positive reports in this report period. And I also appreciate the updates from the therapists, frankly, reassuring me, as well as all of the service providers included that have concern about Ms. Leary's household, that she continues to work hard on moving the ball forward, looking at developing improvements in parenting skills and techniques, working on substance abuse, sobriety, and parenting. And we'll look to her to make sure that she focuses on identifying those domestic violence indicators as well, so that she, as well as her child, can stay safe in that home moving forward. So that will be the court's order moving forward, that she is reunified with the child, remains under the supervision of the court and the department. Family reunification services are ordered. And noted that the reunification services have been appropriately utilized in the last report period. Thank you also to Ms. Heiss for satisfying her obligations as guardian ad litem. Thank you. We'll have our next review November 22nd at 10 a.m. November 22nd at 10 a.m. Unless there's any questions, that's all for today. Name for the record, please.
Sarah Heron.
Thank you very much. Ms. Heiss.
Thank you, Your Honor. I do join the agency in requesting that the file be closed. I visited with the child in person, and mother had allowed me to schedule with her up in the Ypsilanti area, and I looked forward to seeing the child in that environment, but he was sick that day. And what I found was that mom allowed placement, or the former placement, to be the daycare, the child care provider while he was sick. And I didn't, so little guy was sick. And sometimes when you see stuffy noses and draining children, you'll see them sleeping, maybe in a bed or something. This little guy was sleeping on his paternal great grandmother's tummy. So he was tummy to tummy with an adult while he was sick, and all the way asleep. And this grandmother was reclined, and the little baby was just sleeping away. So there's where his mother chose to put him on a sick day. And they had just come in from being outside. This child has 2 half brothers that have been adopted into the home. So all of the children had been outside and had some fresh air. And the great grandmother lives right next door to what was the placement aunt and uncle. So very enmeshed family. And I'm really happy to see that mother relies on this family. They have had this little guy since very early, and they're very bonded to him too. So I'm seeing that she's making great decisions. I would like to leave this mother with a court order that in the comments section says that placement family, so Jason Heron, Herron, should have contact with this little guy every 2 weeks at minimum, just in case mom gets into another situation that, and she needs support, because that's what the Uncle Jason Heron intends for the child, not to be judgmental, not to be anything but supportive, so that if the order could reflect that a wise decision or a safety plan would be for mother to allow contact, and I don't know if that's 5 minutes or a weekend, that's up to the family, but at least every 2 weeks, Jason Heron has access to the child. The other piece that I'd like to leave the family with is Miss Leary has done a lot towards getting divorced from Mr. Leary, who has been determined to not be the father of this child, but he was married to the mother when the child was born. She's done what she can do, and there's a barrier between the counties and between her having full placement without NA jurisdiction, then she can finish her divorce in Washington. And I think she intends to do that. But if the order could reflect that, it's in the best interest for the child to finish that so that it doesn't fall off her radar. I know it wouldn't, but she's got a lot going on as a young mom. She's working very hard. She's using her supports up there in Ypsilanti. So that encouraging her through that court order. The other thing that I would like to emphasize is that court order would be in the CPS data bank, so that if anybody called and said, hey, we haven't seen Braylon in a month, could you do a well check? My idea is that CPS would look in there, see the last court order, and see that she was supposed to. It's a red flag that she's not letting Jason Heron see the child every 2 weeks, and they might inquire what resources she needs to finish that divorce. So the child's needs are being met with his mother. He is bonded with her. There was a long period of increasing visits, and her sobriety is a real gift to the entire family. It's rare, and it's a real gift to the child too. So I join the agency in recommending closing jurisdiction. Thank you.
Testimony this morning, Ms. Thomas.
Your Honor, I'll call Ms. Madrid to give her report.
Come on, witness stand.
Good morning, Ms. Madrid. You have provided us with a court report today, and your cover sheet indicates there's mom's case service plan, an update from Home and New Vision, and then 2 documents from my family. Are there any other documents that you've circulated since submitting that report?
No.
And are there any updates or modifications that you're aware of that need to be made to that report or any of the documents?
None at this time.
Okay. Thank you for that. And the request for today is for the court to terminate its jurisdiction. Is that correct?
Yes.
And can you just briefly highlight how mom has been successful in her case service plan and demonstrated benefit from it?
Yes, she has demonstrated the ability to maintain her sobriety for the majority of this case, a very extended period of time. She has also continued to participate consistently in her mental health services, as well as her substance abuse services. And she's just demonstrated the ability to meet all of Braylon's needs.
And at this time, are there any concerns about Braylon's like childcare or mental health needs, anything like that?
May I inquire for on YouTube, Your Honor?
Yeah.
We
I'm
could refrain
so
from these
sorry.
details.
Thank you for the reminder, Mr. McFarland.
At this time, he does not have any mental health needs. He's up to date on his well child. He has one coming up in January. He had a dental appointment in October. So his needs are being met. As far as daycare assistance, Ms. Leary did settle that, and she was approved for daycare assistance. We worked really hard during this reporting period to get the application approved, and she is now paying $100 a week instead of the $300. So that is definitely a better situation for her.
You heard Ms. Heiss and her recommendations. I'm just hoping that there can continue to be contact with the relative, the former relative placement, Do you have any concerns about mom continuing that? And do you support that recommendation?
Yes, I do support it. I don't have any concerns about Ms. Leary continuing that. She utilizes them right now every weekend. So, and when he's sick, so I don't believe that will be an issue. And they are a very good support for her.
Great. Is there anything else you want the court to know today?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. And then just one more question for My Family, the reunification program. Will that continue after jurisdiction's terminated?
It will not. I did speak to my family worker, and she indicated that they would close out if jurisdiction remains today without any concerns.
Okay, wonderful. With that, Your Honor, I have no further questions of Ms. Madrid and would move to admit the court report.
No objections.
No objection.
Is there a lot left of the My Family Together program for Ms. Leary?
There is not. She's been in it going on 3 months. It's about a 3 to 4 month program. And they just indicated they didn't have any concerns. So if the court released today, they would also end the program.
Would they consider it ended successfully? You know?
Yes. Yeah, she didn't have any concerns and she was in agreement with our recommendation today.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. McFarland?
I know what Ms. Heist, the guardian ad litem, is suggesting with contact with the relative, but it seems open-ended until the child is 18. Do you think that might be a little bit excessive, that the child needs to have contact until the child is 18 with this relative every other week?
I think that it would be beneficial to Braylon and to the child and Ms. Leary if they continue to be engaged and involved in their life. He also has siblings there, so I think that maintaining that contact until they're adults is also very appropriate.
Thank you for that insight. Nothing further.
Ms. Heist.
Would you, with your contact information, be able to make sure that Mrs. Leary has, I believe it's the order after pretrial hearing from January 29th of 2024, in which the judge determined that this is a child born out of wedlock, so that document she has in her hand to finish her divorce in Washtenaw?
Yes.
That would be helpful. Thank you. I have nothing further.
Can you redirect Ms. Thomas?
I have none, Your Honor.
Just one.
Right.
Could you make that copy a certified copy so the court would accept it rather than just a Xerox copy? So authentic, so the court in Washtenaw knows that it's actually generated by our courts. Is that something you could attempt to do?
Yes, I will.
No problem. Nothing further.
Thank you for your testimony and your return receipt. Anyone else you'd like us to hear from today, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Mr. McFarland?
I call my client, please, if she can be sworn in. You've had an opportunity to read the court report. Is that true?
Yes.
You believe that you are at a point where you would want the court to end the case that it has right now?
Yes.
Do you intend on pursuing the divorce and having the father legal father declared not to be the legal father? Is that your intentions?
Yes, I've been working with an attorney really, really hard to get that divorce done. William Amedio actually took the case for me. So he has a very busy schedule, so I'm just kind of waiting on him so I can meet up with him and get the papers together. But now that if this case closes, that's gonna help me a lot.
Sure, okay. And then you heard the recommendation of the guardian ad litem to have your child, we're not gonna mention names because we're on YouTube, but have contact with the family placement where his siblings are. Is that okay with you to have the court direct you to do that?
I mean, I don't particularly like that, but I mean, just because, you know, things happen with family, I would never personally keep my son away from his brothers or his family. He goes with them every Friday to Sunday. I just don't really understand where that came from and why I mean, I understand, but I just don't really understand, if that makes sense. But I guess it's fine. Yes.
Well, is it your position that it's not really a closed case if they're ordering you to continue to do something like that. Is that what I'm
Yeah.
hearing?
I mean, pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's like, you know, I've been trusted to make healthy decisions for my son for the past 2 years. I just don't understand, like, that's not really trusting me if it's being put in a court order to, you know what I mean? That's not, I mean, I have a relapse plan. I have safety plans. I have, you know what I mean? My kids were placed with them for a reason. I've never kept my kids from them. So I'm not understanding where that came from.
Thank you. Okay, I understand. Am I hearing you correctly that you would voluntarily, even without the court directing it, not sever this contact? Is that what we're hearing?
Correct.
Okay. Anything else you think you need to add today?
Nope.
Okay, we'll see if any other attorneys have questions for you.
Ms. Thomas, any questions?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Ms. Heiss?
No, thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else you'd like us to hear from, Mr. McFarland?
No, just closing remarks.
Any witnesses today, Ms. Heiss?
No witnesses, no, thank you.
Good. Comments in closing, Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Your Honor. We don't get to say it often enough, so it's really nice to be able to request the court to terminate its jurisdiction, knowing that Ms. Heron has successfully completed her case service plan, is doing what's best for her child. And that's all that we would ask the court today. Thank you.
Mr. McFarland?
Your Honor, yes, this is something that we don't see often. And, you know, it's all because of mother wanting to do this. She's motivated. I do see her point of view. If we are truly closing this case, then we're closing this case. If she's seeing Mr. Amadeo, who we're all familiar with, he's familiar with the process. She's gone to a private attorney. I'm sure this is going to be accomplished. She's motivated to do that. In addition, she's also motivated to have this child have contact with family. But if we truly believe that she has completed this, then we trust that she's going to follow through. What happens if she doesn't? And the agency can refile and things are not going to look so good. She realizes that. But now these are decisions that a normal parent would make without court intervention. And we're asking the court, yes, to trust that she's going to make these decisions as she's exhibited throughout this case, making positive parental decisions. So it's basically not having that yoke of an existing case over you. It's saying, yes, I've completed it. They trust me. They know that I'm going to do the right thing without having this burden there. And I think her history has demonstrated to us that she can make these proper decisions, Your Honor. So that's our position. And we ask for closure.
Ms. Heiss?
In case it's important to the family, the mother is indicating, where did this come from? You know, I think it's an overstatement to say that for 2 years she's done just fine. You know, the case that brought Mr. Leary to prison, if you read that police report, the abuse that mom suffered was really cruel and awful. Then in June of 2024, we had another police report from a boyfriend. And, you know, that's not that long ago, and Miss Leary got a PPO. So this is my idea, because I represent the child. And Miss Leary knows me. She's allowed me to visit the child at her mom's house with her. So she knows who I am, and she knows. So this idea came from me. And I also was involved in her older 2 children who were in a guardianship with a placement. And at some point they had a private hire, termination of parental rights and adoption on those 2 kids. And those 2 kids are like in Montessori, you know, and they're just really excelling, I think, in this family. So when this little guy was born, I was assigned on the case too. So I know a little bit of the history, and this is my idea, to have every 2 weeks these. I don't trust for if Braylon, if this child were old enough to articulate, I think that it's fair to say every 2 weeks. And I think Miss Leary is not opposed to it. And I think she intends to have much more contact than every 2 weeks. But I think that leaving case open it creates barriers for the mom, but also, so I want her to know that this is my idea. This is not a custody order. This is not enforceable. This is until further order of the court, or, you know, if it were 10 years down the road and someone opens this case and says, oh, look, you were supposed to let contact every 2 weeks. Well, in 10 years, things will be different. And everybody knows the passage of time would, I think it's important to the family that she understands that this came from me and not the placement, and it's based on those things. So that's all for today, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Court finds all interested parties are given notice for purposes of today's review and permanency planning hearing. This case was open for quite some time. I am happy to recognize the progress that Ms. Sarah Herring made over the course of the time that the court was supervising the efforts that she was making in cooperation with the agency. And I will agree to release jurisdiction. I am including the directives to continue to allow the contact between the child and the placement. That's a very important support to recognize for the child, as well as for the relative in this case. And that needs to continue to be in place, as well as the finalization of that divorce judgment. I certainly hope that Ms. Herring continues to maintain the success and progress that she's made. And I wish her the best of luck moving forward, but I'm releasing the child officially from the jurisdiction of the court back into her care, and there will be no more further review hearings. We'll send a certified copy of today's order out. Do you want us to send that to you directly, Ms. Herring, or do you want it to be sent to your attorney?
Send it to me directly. That would be great. Thank you.
Very good. I will ask my clerk's office to ensure that a certified copy of today's order releasing jurisdiction and containing the directives that were referenced as it relates to Aeon Larry to you directly, so that you can use that for purposes of your divorce. Unless there's any questions, that's all for today.